Hello again, welcome back to some climbing news. I've been gone for a while, but I'm back. Got a new logo thing. You guys like it? Anyways, we got a ton of stuff to catch up on, so let's go ahead, start the show. And starting us out today, I want to talk about the V17 grade as someone who's currently nowhere near able to climb it. Because I think there's a trend that I'm spotting right about now is probably about to get going real soon. I'm talking specifically about this idea of grade inflation and grade deflation, mostly kind of from a marketing perspective. Here's what I mean, right? So we know that V17 sells. We know it's the magic number that gets views. I know it's the magic number that gets views. We've heard Noah and Ben Wheeler talk about the fact that putting that number in a title instantly shoots your views up a crazy amount. In my experience, that totally holds up. There's even what I like to call the mellow conspiracy theory, which is the idea that the boulder problems the main cast of mellow characters constantly climb are soft as hell, because big grade means big views. Now, whether or not that's actually the case is up for debate, which is why it's a conspiracy theory. Not touching that one with a 10-foot freaking pole. But I'm really only bringing it up in order to propose this idea as an established fact that's been around since grades in climbing were a thing, right? Now, let me level with you guys. I just took a 2-week-long break, and one of the reasons I did is because I was getting kind of tired of telling the same damn story over and over again. Because in climbing, well, we really only have a single story to work with something like 70% of the time. Boiled down to a simple skeleton key sort of situation, it's person finds hard rock to climb, person tries hard rock climb, person trains hard, tries hard, and against all odds and to absolutely no one's surprise, person manages to send the hard rock climb. Then they say it's the hardest thing they've done. Some people clap, some people get pissed, some people pull a foaming mouth guy from Avatar. Now look, my fatigue with climbing achievement is my own, but I also am not entirely sure it's just me who feels that way. I think I'm kind of part of a bigger trend of people who have been getting pretty bored with the idea of V17 9A, which is why I'm talking about this, because I think Yannick Flohe's whole downgrade of No One Mourns the Wicked is very much the opening of a whole floodgate of downgrades. I mean, shit, he did the same thing to Brain Rot, freaking 8C plus V16 down to 8B plus V14. I think doing so probably got a lot more attention than it would have had he just sent the problem and not given his opinion. By the way, in case you missed it, Yannick Flohe sent No One Mourns the Wicked and suggested the first downgrade of a 9A V17 to 8C plus V16 since Nico Pellerson did the same to Soudan Sol a few years back. My point is not that I think Yannick is doing these downgrades primarily for attention, it's that I think it's inevitable that downgrades stir up a lot of it. Listen, Noah and Ben Wheeler are smart goddamn cookies. Ben may not be great at geography, but he does math shit. Noah, well, I don't know, but he's definitely not stupid. There's an incredibly obvious reason the latest Wheel Rock features Yannick and talks about whether or not Burden of Dreams potentially deserves a downgrade. Like seriously, the question posed in that video is, should this climb be V16? It's a 10-minute video in which we get the obvious answer, no. It's not a question that needed to be asked, it's a question I definitely knew the answer to, and I think most of us did as well, and yet I very happily clicked on the video and watched the whole thing and was extremely interested to hear what Noah and Yannick had to say, which is basically something most of us kind of sort of knew already. Let me be clear, I'm not shitting on Wheel Rock. I wheel my rock to it every single time. I'm just stating that this was almost purely a marketing move. It was genius and fucking respect. More importantly, this video is, I think, an indication that the pro climbing community is realizing that downgrades are indeed marketable. It's an indication that the sharks are smelling the V17 blood in the water, and it's an indication too, hold on your butts, because downgrades are coming. Probably not all that soon, because it's almost summer, but yeah, as soon as the temps get going, man, I really think we're going to start to see some 9As falling. Which is interesting because this indicates to me, like, well, number one, people are going to realize that downgrading stuff is probably very much okay, which is not a bad thing, and not just okay, probably quite, good for the whole attention economy thing and for climbing grades in general. And two, it brings in the question of, well, just how much influence does the whole downgrades and grades and of themselves have on what someone publicly opines about a climb? I'm, again, not accusing anyone of absolutely anything. I'm just wondering about the influence that money has, direct or indirect, on grades at the very tippy top end of the scale. Because you gotta admit, that at this point, there are a few boulders that if you were to downgrade them, would probably get a whole metric fuck ton of attention, and mostly positive at that. Maybe only a few would be bad. Like, I don't think people would take you very seriously if you rocked up to Burden and downgraded it. Maybe this video is knowing Yannick's way of putting a question mark at the end there because they genuinely don't feel like it's that hard with the new beta and they're scared of being ridiculed. They're hoping that their Burden of Dreams V16 8C Plus announcement tick or whatever that's probably going to drop like 20 minutes after I publish this video, because that's just how my life works, won't end with them getting James Pearsoned into irrelevance. Like, let me be meta real quick and just self-reference the absolute confidence with which I spoke about Burden being V17 not 3 minutes ago, despite me never having touched it, not being strong enough to even pull off the ground, and having two dudes whose opinions on grades I massively respect telling me that they're not sure. Let me continue to do the same when I say that a few weeks ago, Sleepwalker was 8C plus V16 on climbinghistory.org. Now it's V15. A downgrade from whoever next repeats Return of the Sleepwalker from 17 to 16 would probably be viewed more favorably. And honestly, the reaction to Yannick's downgrade of No One Mourns might inspire that very thing to happen. So, yeah, we like to think that grading occurs in a vacuum. It very clearly does not. I don't know, man. I just rambled on for maybe entirely too long. Maybe a lot of you are kind of wishing I hadn't come back. But yeah, with all that said, I'm going to pass this off to you guys, because I'd love to know what everyone thinks. How big of an impact does marketing public opinion have on grades? Is it huge? Is it tiny? Should I do a big deep dive video about it? Let me know. And also, to just be, again, incredibly clear, I'm not saying that the wheel rock video was all lies, because that's what like tends to happen when you think like marketing is like, oh, lying, they weren't actually being genuine. I do think they were being genuine. I also think that it was, you know, two things can be true at the same time. Just trying to cover my ass there a little bit, make sure that you guys understand. I'm not trying to shit on Noah or Yannick at all. All right, next, Climbing World Series in Wujiang was held over the weekend. Sport climbing is my favorite. Like, yeah, no, it is actually my favorite. Like, I find sport climbing comps genuinely more fun to watch than bouldering ones, ironically enough. Anyone feel that way? I'll talk about that in a second, actually, because I want to address the criticisms that Matt Groom's commentary has been getting, which I think mostly has to do with some formatting issues. But I'll get to that after I talk about the comp from this weekend. He fucked up again, which is why I think it's still relevant. But just in case you haven't seen the actual comp, I'm not going to spoil anything. So here we go. Spoilers from here on out. Timestamps in the description in case you want to skip all of this section. Last warning, we're going to start with the men's right now. And yeah, this was a race for the top, he said, stating the most obvious shit ever. Look, the dude that came out first got really, really high up there, and this comp was basically all about seeing if any of the subsequent climbers could catch up. What I said made sense, and I didn't say who it was in order to keep the intrigue up, even though if you're watching this section, you already probably know the results. Shut up. In 8th place, Victor Guillermin, on his first ever finals appearance in a World Series, World Cup, or however the hell we're calling these now, fell with just 30 points after finding a surprise knee bar that had Matt Groom looking or sounding like Dr. Grant post-Brachiosaurus encounter.
Wow.
Put your head between your knees.
Amazingly creative climbing to find that rest. I personally was kind of concerned that it maybe took more energy to get in and out of it than Victor was really able to get back. But real cool, man. He maybe didn't win this comp, but he definitely won our hearts. And perhaps the real knee bars were the lessons we learned amongst the days. That's not right at all. Whatever. 7th place went to Philippe Schenck. The Italian man looked solid throughout the route, perhaps a little pumped here and there, ultimately taken out by a foot slip as he went for hold 35, giving him a score of 34 plus. 6th place to Sam Avezu, pumped out of his brains right above Philippe Schenck, and also taken out by an unfortunate slip of the foot. Dude kind of looked like he maybe was going to go for Victor Guillermin's knee bar rest for a second. A little bit of a team-on-team whisper action, if you know what I mean. I don't know what I'm saying. He rested somewhere else. What am I doing? 35 plus points for Sam. Not that the point system really matters when I'm telling you who placed where. Anyways, 5th place for, and this is surprising, Sorato and Raku, on the heels of one of the greatest comp climbing seasons in history. Sorato is currently feeling completely out of sorts despite coming in first place last week. You know what I mean. I don't know what's going on. Sorato doesn't know what's going on. The famed sophomore slump is laughing its ass off in the corner, and every sports psychologist from here to Timbuktu is frothing at the mouth at the prospect of being able to work their magic on him, poking a little bit of fun. But as someone who's currently not at all climbing their best, I know exactly how Sorato feels. And, well, it really freaking sucks. Japanese phenom was taken out by a crimp. He fumbled. That really didn't look that bad. Like, it looked bad for me, but relative to what those guys can do, usually, like, not that bad. It was very surprising. 4th place, and another wild surprise. It's all about surprises this time, as Satone Yoshida fell on the exact same move as Sorato Hanraku, which makes me wonder if my eyes are deceiving me, and that move was a lot more complex than it might seem. 2 Japanese climbers taken out, in this case, quite literally, by the pink one in the corner. Unlike Sorato, Satone Yoshida was looking incredibly solid. Came out last, and it was basically his comp to win, but an unfortunate mistake that he very much just could not believe left him denied of gold. Guys want to see the creation of a moment that will haunt someone for a very long time, probably the rest of their life? This is it. Onto the podium, and a bronze medal for Do-Hyun Lee, who was just absolutely insane. Like, the power level this guy has is... Am I going to say it? I have to, right? Like, I got to say. I'll let Vegeta say it.
It's over 9,000!
There you go. See, it's over 9,000. What else will I reference? What else have I already referenced? Who cares? Do-Hyun Lee looked insanely solid throughout the route. Campused a tough 360 bit, had some trouble on the hold that took out Satone and Sorato, but managed to hold it and fell on the move right after. 2nd place for the most consistent dude of all time, Alberto Gines Lopez, who, after impersonating a little frog, according to Ichi, fell just 1 move after Do-Hyun. I am very not much calmly waiting for this dude to get his shit together and finally win a gold medal, something that he hasn't done yet, unless you count his win in the first ever Olympics, which that's exactly what he did. Viva España. I believe it's a matter of averages at this point. 4 silver, 4 bronze, and an illustrious career that just needs a teeny little bit of hint of gold. Dude's killing it. And finally, 1st place and gold for Neo Suzuki, who was the first dude out there and who made the entire freaking route look so easy. I think everyone at home was instantly concerned that this comp might accidentally turn into a Senfest, which ironically, when it comes to lead, really kind of sucks. But yeah, Neo climbed incredibly well, super efficient to the point that he made a potential tangled up rope actually seem intentional, and like a very smart move that saved him a ton of energy. Made the moves that took everyone else out look so ridiculously easy. It was an insane performance and incredibly well-deserved. Next, let's talk women and an absolute nail-biter of a finish. Anyways, in 8th place, kind of surprisingly so, Laura Rogora, who according to an Instagram post got so sick the moment she reached China. She battled fever, nausea, spent 2 days in bed, and yet despite feeling like complete and total crap, still managed to somehow make finals, which is incredibly impressive, honestly. She looked kind of shaky through the first few moves and was shut down by some pretty bad bait on what seemed like the crux pinches on the route. 7th place went to Lucia Tarkus, who looked incredibly shaky at the beginning of the route. Basically, the girl pretty much decided to go free soloing for a little bit and kept clipping at her ankles. Not sure if that was nerves, if it was something else, but it was enough to basically pump her out early. Combination of factors that just don't really work well together when you add horrific pinches to the equation. 6th place went to Osha McKenzie, who, despite being absolutely slammed by co-commentator Ichi for wearing socks with her climbing shoes, a well-deserved slight if I do say so myself. Let's be real. If you aren't participating in the disgusting medley of humanity that accumulates as black gunk inside a shoe, can you really call yourself a climber? You can't. It's just not a thing. It's part of the process. I'm just joking around. And Ichi just pointed out that she thought it was interesting Osha wears socks. She wasn't actually giving her shit. Point is, kind of strange fall for her, unable to twist through enough to grab the undercling that was just past the pinches, a move that didn't really seem to give the other competitors that much trouble. Not really sure what happened there, maybe just a bit too pumped, maybe a body positioning issue, who knows. 5th went to Rosa Rekar, who just reminded me that I really freaking need to stretch. Seriously, my downward dog looks like a freaking plank. I have the mobility of a dehydrated saltwater crocodile. It is frankly embarrassing. But yeah, no, she really does not need any help in that department. Incredibly freaking flexy, doing a wild splits, and then unfortunately just missing the sloper on the jump move. 4th place to Erin McNeese, McBeast, who looked a little more shaky throughout the comp. I keep saying that word, god damn it. Managed to get past the pinches without much of a fuss, hit the jump that bucked off Rosa, got the campus move, and what looked like an incredibly unfortunate foot placement and a bad adjustment, and suddenly, almost inexplicably, she was off the wall. Possibly a victim of the pump, maybe something else, I'm not entirely sure, but an extremely emotional moment for her, as Matt and Ichi mentioned. They could see her visibly shaken and crying afterwards. I don't know if you guys remember, but Erin made a post on the gram where she commented on her struggles with motivation, her struggles with comparisons in terms of performance. Can't help but wonder if the emotions we saw after all of this maybe had something to do with that. Regardless, here's to hoping she's looking out for herself, staying strong, and just learning how to enjoy competing, honestly. Now moving on to the podium, Chae-Hyun-seo managed to get third place and a bronze medal after reaching only a single move past Erin. Again, another almost inexplicable drop as she looked quite solid through the bottom section, reached the campus looking strong, and then suddenly seemingly completely pumped out. Pulled a last-second desperation jump in an attempt at a plus for her score, which she unfortunately did not get. The second place, as we probably all guessed, went to Jana Garnbret. I'm kidding. Ain't nobody seen that coming, unless you're one of those people that has decided that she looks terrible this season and she sucks now. I'm not one of those people, and while my belief in Jana is about as steadfast as my belief in the power of friendship, it is kind of sort of weird that she completely and totally friggin' biffed the top. Like, no, seriously, I know people are saying she got short road, but like, no, she didn't. She made a mistake. It's normal. It happens. To me, it's that piece of shit design of those freaking 360 holds. Am I losing a potential sponsor by saying that? Probably. But I don't care. I hate them. And now I can imagine Jana does too. Look, watch the replay. You can clearly see she goes for the hold thinking it was set as a totally vertical side pull. Literally goes for where the jug would have been had it not been placed on a slight diagonal. Only problem is she wasn't able to see that because the damn thing is so freaking unnecessarily big and symmetrical that it juts out from the wall and makes it impossible to see. Anyways, this would have been Jana's 50th competition climbing gold medal, and she would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those medaling kids, Zelia and Annie. Speaking of which, first place, Annie Sanders, and an enormous congratulations to her. She's looking incredibly strong. Watching her climb is horrific. Like, for my heart, that is. She's too slow. She takes her sweet ass time. Clock's running down. I'm yelling at the TV, hoping she'll move faster. And there's little Annie, slow and steady, like one badass goddamn Ninja Turtle. Which, okay, I'll be level with you guys here. So I work with a lot of Adobe Suite stuff, and I pay for all of it, which means I get access to Firefly somehow, which is like their generative AI platform. I try to use it as little as possible because I'm not personally a fan of AI unless it's like super necessary. But as I was writing this particular script and I said the Annie thing about her being a Ninja Turtle, I asked the AI to turn her into one for shits and giggles, and I got the most cursed thing I think I've ever seen. Yeah, here. Annie, if you're watching this, if a screenshot somehow gets to you, I'm so goddamn sorry, but I had to. You rule. The version of you, the normal version of you, not this, the one that climbs badass and is amazing and won the comp. Anyways, cursed Annie Sanders aside, this was an incredible effort to watch, from her just slowly inching her way up the head wall crimps to her just literal last second throw to get the plus. Incredible effort, amazing stuff, such an unbelievable performance, and not even Matt Groom could understand what was happening. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is how you segue to another freaking topic. God damn it, I'm good at this writing crap. Hell yeah, banana bread. Matt Groom's under fire for his commentating, and I get it. He constantly gets things wrong, oftentimes seems distracted, goes off on tangents. There's room for improvement, certainly, but if you think I'm here to shit on him, I'm not. Nope. Sorry. This is a defense of Matt Groom. Look, a lot of criticism has been leveled at Matt for the way he commented on the last comp, the bouldering in Kachow, the last comp, whatever. The whole thing is a narrative about him and Eugenie Lee talking about socks as Zelia Vezu was topping her final boulder. And look, I'm fully on for criticism, but I don't think it's fair to do so in this case. Like, Matt's put out a freaking apology, and I generally just don't think that any of what we saw was his fault. More so, this points to an issue with formatting in, like, all of bouldering competition climbing, in my opinion. Because look, when Zelia topped, the entire field was basically tied. Not only was everyone tied, but she was also the third climber out, which meant that there were still 5 other competitors to go before the comp was even over. Freaking Jana still had 2 boulders to do when this happened. There is literally no way for anyone to know that this particular top was going to be as consequential as it ultimately was. And I think that's terrible. It's terrible for Matt, who's put in a tough position because something incredibly important is happening in a moment that doesn't seem like it would be. And it's terrible for the spectator because, well, unless you're like super duper paying attention and you know the intricacies of modern competition bouldering, Zelia's win's gonna probably feel like it came out of nowhere. That's an issue with formatting, not an issue with commentating. Or maybe it's an issue with both. I'm not sure. It's an issue with commentating that comes from an issue with formatting. On top of that, you got what seems to me to be a very recent realization from world climbing that they need to manufacture some sort of rivalry in order to farm engagement. Honestly, they're not wrong. That shit works. The issue is that if you basically force Matt to non-stop comment about Jana versus Orion or Mejdi Schalck versus Sorato and Raku, you end up looking like freaking idiots when someone else inevitably wins, which is exactly what happened during the bouldering comp. Had Jana not had a really weird comp with a bunch of wardrobe changes and had Orion not fumbled the last boulder, the end probably would have looked totally different. Same with Mejdi versus Anraku. And the men's, where it worked a little bit better, but only because there wasn't a dark horse that showed up out of nowhere to win. To continue with my defense of Matt Groom, dude was basically doing a sponsored read when the Zelia thing happened. Like legit, the whole toe socks thing came from him mentioning that World Climbing has a new Vibram sponsorship. And he was probably directed to do so in that moment by someone else and switched back to talking about Zelia Vezu as she reached a new high point. This last weekend, it's honestly, it's kind of more of the same. The critique is that he keeps getting things wrong or doesn't wait for the graphic to be updated, and so he announces things entirely too early. He messed up and said that Annie wasn't the winner when she did in fact get the plus that she needed. It took like 30 seconds for that to be updated. There are a whole host of factors as to why this might have happened. My question is, why is the commentator not seeing something completely different to us? Why is he not getting like a viewer screen or a commentator screen or even more simply a direct line to the judges where he can hear what they're saying? Look, competition climbing it's a very long watch, especially bouldering. Bouldering can get incredibly boring. Like for real, it's 4 boulders that we see climbed mostly in the exact same way, 8 times with very little of that time having any true immediate and easily understandable consequences. How the hell Matt manages to put all of that together into something pretty entertaining is honestly beyond me. Especially when he's got to deal with shitty camera work, shitty directing, shitty scorekeeping, shitty graphics use, different co-commentators who may or may not even be native English speakers, have any idea what the hell is going on or how to even begin to be a commentator in the first place. Like, it's a freaking miracle that things go as well as they do. Honestly, it feels to me like Matt's being left out to dry by World Climbing. He gets zero help, and yet look at him writing apologies for his commentating, taking criticism and improving. Like, yeah, dude's not perfect, but he's getting better. Like for real, this last comp was a lot better than the first one for him. He didn't do a Jana versus someone so egregiously. He listened to people's feedback, and I think that's awesome. Matt Groom, if you're watching this, you're doing fine. I got you, baby boo. And World Climbing, you guys need help. Switching to rugby for 7 minutes in the middle of a semifinal. What are you doing? Get your shit together. So off we go to Yosemite where Chris Deudo, off we go to Yosemite where Chris Deudo has become the youngest person to manage to do the Yosemite Triple Crown. The ripe young age, 22 years old. Triple Crown, in case you're not sure what that is climbing all 3 of Yosemite's biggest formations in a day. That's Mount Watkins, Half Dome, and El Cap. It was first done by Dean Potter and Timmy O'Neill back in 2001. They managed to complete it in 22 hours. It was done last year by Laura Pinault and Kate Callaghan. The current record is that of Tanner Vanish, not sure, and Michael Vale, who managed to do the whole damn thing in 17 hours, 55 minutes. And well, Chris Deuda and his partner Eric Anderson just managed to do it in 22 hours, 16 minutes at 22 years old. It's lovely, poetic, wonderful. Now most people do Watkins first, then go El Cap nose and finish up Half Dome, but it seems like Chris and Eric wanted to travel between all 3 formations on foot and by bike, so they opted to take on Watkins and Half Dome first before finishing on the nose. And I've talked about the Triple Crown before, and it's honestly kind of hard to really wrap your head around how big of a challenge this is. It's 2 kilometers of climbing and about 30 kilometers of hiking. Okay, freedom units, 7,000 feet of climbing, 18 miles hiking in 24 hours. That's insane. something like 71 pitches of climbing. Go to your gym on a Saturday morning, try climbing 71 routes on an auto belay before it closes in the afternoon. When you give up less than halfway through because your fingies can't move, realize you haven't actually walked anywhere yet. It's absolutely insane to accomplish that. Anyways, enormous congrats to both Chris Deudo and Eric Anderson. Amazing achievement, man. Awesome stuff. All right, time to get all caught up on all the good stuff I missed from the past few weeks. So here we go. Strap on in. I'm going to be listing most of it. So first and foremost, Jana Svecova, very quickly becoming one of only 3 women to have 3 8C boulders under her belt with her send of drift. She had tried it before she did Tokyo drift, felt drift was morpho, sent Tokyo drift, gained some confidence, put drift together. Now I don't know what sort of demonic bullshit possessed her to fall in love with the world's ugliest limestone crag, but hey man, if doing crummy traverse stinkers gets her psych up, who the hell am I to judge? Shit's rad, she's strong as all hell. She keeps it up. She's gonna be sending Terra Nova freaking real soon. I'm very excited for that. Then Ava Hammelmueller finally sent her first ever 9A plus 515A route, Bombardino, in Italy. She called it soft. 3 sessions for a 9A plus route. It's also been sent by Babsy Zangirl and Laura Rora, which was FA'd by Adamandra originally at 9B, but downgraded by Stefano Ghisolfi after a beta break. And yeah, man, it was about freaking time she sent something harder than 9A. Seriously, Ava's pyramid is wild. 1 9A plus, 7 9A 514Ds, 20 8C plus 514Cs, and 46 8C 514Bs under her belt before she got on a 9A plus. And then she goes on to say that she's surprised that she sent quickly. Like, really? Really? Congratulations to her, of course. She's incredibly strong. I can't wait to see what else she's got. More stuff I missed. I may have mentioned Yannick Flohe's send and subsequent downgrade of Noran Morin's The Wicked, but I didn't talk about Yannick Flohe's brutal downgrade of Brain Rot from 8C plus to 8B plus, 16 to 14, which I did briefly mention. And his whole thing about how downgrades are not personal, which is something I agree with. But also, yeah, that one must have stung a little bit. Kind of joins the club of historic downgrades right next to Paul Robinson's REM, for which he did the exact same thing, which hasn't really stuck, oddly enough. And yeah, my rhetoric with the whole brutal and saying it might have stung is wrong here. Downgrades should not be considered personal. They're not. They're not an attack. We don't need another Katie versus Brooke debacle where everyone except Katie and Brooke loses their freaking minds for reasons completely unclear to me and Katie and Brooke. Then, in terrible news, I can't not say something about Matthew Maddison, USA Climbing Speed Team Manager and Strength and Conditioning Coach, was arrested on 10 counts of child sexual exploitation. Link to the affidavit is down below. Fair warning, it is an absolutely horrific read. This is an ongoing thing, so I don't have much to say beyond genuinely, I really hope this dude rots in prison. To the coaches out there who work with kids, all I can say is just do your absolute goddamn damnedest to keep your relationship with the kids under your care as transparent and professional as humanly freaking possible. The more you do, the easier it will be to spot red flags from others who actually would hurt children. To USA Climbing, who has not really said much beyond what seems like first HR steps to fire this dude once he's gone through a fair trial, I kind of doubt that anything else is going to be said. Their whole wild charges appear to be unrelated to his coaching responsibilities thing, kind of points to them wanting to just brush this off in like a, well, he didn't do anything to our kids, so that's not our problem, which is really not fucking great. We'll see what ends up happening. I'll try to keep everyone updated on the situation as I hear more. And more bad stuff. Death of Will Stanhope. It needs to be talked about. Long story short, head trauma from a fall where his harness flipped him upside down. Terrible news to hear about. Will's Boys and the Bugs Real Rock is one of my absolute favorite climbing movies of all time. It's awful to hear that he's gone. That movie kind of cemented for me a large part of what I think climbing is about for me. In essence, kind of like the idea of the super fun, ultimately meaningless adventure that opens itself up to trying really, really hard for its own sake. At the same time that I say that, it's also true that the conversation around Will has turned towards the various crimes that he had been charged with and that he was due in court for in December. Various counts of assault, one sexual. We'll never really be able to know if he was guilty of these things. His victims will not get closure. His family are in an incredibly difficult situation with people bringing all of this up as they grieve the loss of their beloved family member. It's an incredibly complex and difficult spot to be in. One that I'm not entirely sure how to tackle right now, beyond saying that I think it's incredibly easy to reduce people to single actions or single characteristics, when the reality is that people are incredibly not simple beings. It's easy to paint things as black and white, but I think especially in cases like these, it's possible for someone to be both a beloved yet troubled figure for some, a monster for others. And I think we just really need to remember to have empathy both for the people who are asking for this to not be talked about and for those who refuse to not do so. Family needs to be left alone to grieve. Will's transgressions need to be talked about, not forgotten, simply because he's just not around anymore. The single sort of out that I'm going to give myself in this situation, hopefully whenever accidents happen outdoors, they turn into opportunities for people to learn. In this way, I guess some good can come from something like this, and that good is to just remind people to please wear a helmet. Stay safe. I don't really want to reduce the litany of factors that led to this accident, but to just that. But it's also true that had Will been wearing a helmet, he probably would still be here. Now, with that said, I'm going to move on here, switch gears back to some more positive stuff. Really sorry about this, man. I need to figure out a way to make it so that we don't boomerang from emotion to emotion. But we do have some boulders to talk about because people be sending boulders out there. So, two sends of Les Pieds à Coulisse, a lovely 8C V15 from Font, first by Mejdi Schalck, second by Manu Cornu. Not much to add, just a hard-ass mantle because of course it is. Mejdi has a cool video, link is down below or here. Then we got Hamish Macarthur intellectualizing, as he's one to do, asking the world to put a tilde in front of every grade proposal, an idea that I agree with on paper, but that I don't necessarily see taking off. The idea that every grade is an approximation and nothing more than an estimation, fact. The people are still going to talk about grades as if they're solid, immovable, unchangeable, transcending their metaphysical state. What? Even I make that mistake often, I think. Hamish sent a boulder. He called it tilde. He graded it approximately 8C V15. He's right in thinking the way he does. I'm giving him shit because I'm an asshole. I don't know him personally, but I poke fun with love. And I really hope he knows that, but I would probably hate me too. Where was I? Noah Wheeler flashed nothing but sunshine, 8BV13. I feel like I've talked about Noah enough for today. Well done, Noah. Dude's gonna send Burden this week if the weather holds up. Best of luck to him. Yeah, he's gonna do it. Speaking of Scandinavian countries, Bosi's on silence. Bosi figured out some shit for the crux. Bosi being very loud about his figuring something out on the crux of silence. Hell yeah. This brings me tremendous freaking psych. I really, really, really want to see this route get repeated. I really, really, really want to see Will Bosi repeat this route. I don't know how close he is on it. I have zero concept of how long these things take, but if he's figured out something new on the crux, mayhaps it's time to start working other sections, and the red point attempts might not be too far, methinks. I'm stoked either way. I'll keep us updated as he is one to do. He'll keep us updated as he's one to do. I'll keep you guys updated as he does so. And finally, World Climbing set to hold an extraordinary General Assembly in July to discuss geopolitical issues. I have no information on what that discussion will entail that I can verify at the moment, but presumably might have to do with the participation of countries that are, let's say, involved in armed conflicts currently. Looking at you, Russia, Israel, and the United States. Obviously, I will keep everyone updated on that, but probably won't say much about it until the assembly is held in 2 months, just because I don't have any information. I don't think speculation's really all that helpful. But that's all she wrote, folks. But hey, that was some climbing news as always. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if I've missed anything you'd like me to talk about, because, yeah, 2 weeks is a lot longer than it seems in the climbing world. I will see you guys again on Thursday at the latest. Just a friendly reminder to like, comment, subscribe, and in the meantime, of course, and as always, go climb some stuff.